Let's do an easy Vox open like this one.
Madagascar, an island off the coast of Africa. It's one of the most biologically diverse places in the world.
It's often a good idea to start a video or a scene with an establishing shot, and a map is a great way to do that. I created these videos here of the Earth and a map zooming into my little forest using Google Earth. You can do the same thing in Google Earth if you want to do your own thing, or you can just have these maps. They are included, linked in the description below, along with all of the other elements I use in this video. In fact, I also have a bunch of animal stills of animals in our forest, these deer and, some dogs and cats me and my family have had, and some horses we saw in Iceland. So go ahead and pause the video right now and hit the download link below so you can get these elements and follow along. And since I created all of them, you're welcome to use them for any of your projects. Oh, and please go ahead and hit that subscribe button while you're at it. First, I want you to notice that I'm organized, and you want to always stay organized. I have all of my audio in this folder, my video in this folder, and all my animals in this folder, all the still images that we're going to use in this video. The first thing we're going to do is drop in the voiceover. I'm going to double click on the audio and drag my voiceover down here around 3.5 seconds. We're going to start it. I'm going to trim off the beginning so it starts, right around here. So we'll tweak it in a second. Next, I'm going to rough out the video. So we'll jump into our video folder, grab Trev's Forest and throw it in here. We want to get this Earth moving to about here. We kind of want it to be about that big there. So we're just going to trim it up here. I'm going to hit Command B on a Mac, Control B on a PC, and move that out of the way. Just going to add a couple seconds of the coastline here. So I'll just go to about where I want that to be, and I'm just gonna trim it up, and I'm just gonna make a freeze frame because this I'm gonna animate manually. So I'm gonna make a freeze frame with this by just clicking this icon here, and bam, I have all this stuff that's frozen. I just need a couple seconds of that. We'll kind of rough it out to about, I don't know, there maybe. And then we're gonna add a little bit of this next section, which is Trev Closer, and we need probably, maybe about all of this. We'll just leave that here and leave that roughed out. Next, I'm gonna add all those animals that Vox had in its open. It's this section right here, and it looks cool. Watch this. It looks cool, but it's not that complicated. If you just go one frame at a time, like you kind of don't even know what you watched, but it's just literally one frame of an animal at a time, zoomed in on their eyes, and notice that their eyes are all in the same place. That's important. How do we do that? How do we mimic that? So let's just jump into our stills folder and just grab animals. And there were about 14 of them. So we're just going to put them kind of in the order we want and just stack them on top of each other. Kind of, it doesn't have to be in any particular order, but we want it to vary a little bit. So it's like not deer, 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 dog, 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 but just dog, deer, scroll down, grab a cat, another dog, a squirrel, etc. I'll just stack all these real quick, and then you'll see what we do next. When you're doing multiple clips like this, and you're like, I don't know if I use that one or not, just look over here and it says added. If you've already used it, it says added, so you're not going to repeat it. I have about 14 animals stacked up here, and we could use them like this, but in Vox's video, they had all of the eyes line up. How do we do that? So I'm just going to turn off, I'm going to hide these top layers by just selecting all of them, scrolling down to here, and revealing just these last two. I'm going to type the letter V on my keyboard, and it's going to hide all those other ones, and now we're just stuck with this guy here, and actually I'm going to hit V on that guy as well because I want to line up this eye in the middle. That's Allie, my daughter's dog. So I'm going to click on Allie and scale her up, and she's a big, mean pit bull, and she's about 100 pounds overweight. And yeah, we'll just put the eye right in the middle. We're just kind of lining it up with the play button down here and getting it about as centered as possible. And then I'm just going to click on this next guy, type the letter V to make it visible. And I want to line up one of his eyes over Allie's eyes. To do that, it's going to drag the opacity down and scale him up and position his eye right there over Allie's eye. And I think that'll work. And then just change the opacity again. And we're going to click on the next guy, type the letter V. That's Peyton, our cat. She's about 9 and she's annoying. And she's also in love with me, and I have to kick her out of my room all the time. She wants to rub her head on my mousing hand while I'm trying to work. And then when I go to bed, she comes in there and starts messing with my hand that is watching TikTok right before I fall asleep. And there was a line up that one. We're just going to do the same thing with everyone. I'll just do one more, and then we'll go ahead and make them one frame long each. So I'm going to turn the opacity back up on Peyton. Notice her eyes dead center. And I'm going to go to Saphira, who I lost last year. She was pretty. I'm going to make her big. And if she's not big enough, I want that eye to be even bigger. This thing only goes to 500. But if I wanted to go bigger, I could type 600. but I don't want it bigger. I'm just going to bring it down here. And I'm going to turn the opacity down and line it up with Peyton's eye, make it a little bigger, and bam, and then turn the opacity back up. I'm just going to do that with the rest of them. You can do it on your own and choose the animals you like. You have more than 14 animals to choose from. Help yourself. Okay, I've scaled and positioned all of these so the eyes line up. Now I need to make them all 1 frame long. And the easiest way to do that is probably just to position the playhead at frame 1 like this. Just go forward 1 frame like that. Select all of them like this, just dragging and selecting all of them. And then you can either hit this icon here, the split icon, or hit Command B on a Mac, Control B on a PC. Now they're all cut, and I just hit delete, and now they're all 1 frame long, but they're stacked on top of each other. So now what we have to do is zoom in so we can see them better, and just position them down here. And CapCut, because there is nothing in that track, it's just dropping everything down and making it really easy for us like this. And when it's all said and done, all of this work will yield just over a ½ second worth of video content. And see if I actually have 14 of these guys here, because that was my goal. And here's what that looks like. Boom. You know, it's so fast you can't even see what's going on, but if we go 1 frame at a time, you know, you see all the eyes are lined up, and it's kind of cool, these random forest and domestic animals. Now we want to grab all of these guys and bring them to the end here. So I'm going to highlight all of them, and you're going to have this problem too. It's like, oh, they're only 1 frame each. I can't grab anything. So you just need to position your playhead right in the middle of them, hold down the Command key or Control key on a PC, zoom in. So you've got something to grab onto besides the handles. I'm just going to slide it over like this until I get there. Come on, baby, right there. And bam, now I've got these guys here at the end of our little intro. Now let's go ahead and sound design this kind of like Vox. Let's listen to the beginning of Voxes so we can do something similar. So they had kind of a reverse guitar with a suckback or a riser kind of thing. And it takes a while to figure out what these things are called and how to find them exactly. So I'm just going to click on music, click on sound effects, and just type in reverse guitar and see what we get. This D sharp E flat is the one that I found that works. Let's listen. You know, it's not the same pitch, but it's close enough. So I'm just going to zoom in here and take away any of the wasted space here in the beginning by just clicking and dragging over here. Drag this to the beginning, and we can stop it wherever we want. So we're just going to stop it right about here. And then we want that suckback or that riser here. And I couldn't find a great one. They do have risers in CapCut. You can try those, or you can just jump into my music folder here that you have access to, click on audio, and I've got a riser that works better than the ones I heard in CapCut. And we want it to end right here. So it'll look like this. And right when it ends, we want the other clip to start. So we're just going to trim this guy up to here and add this guy right here, slide him over, and we get, I think that's pretty good. That's actually a really good technique to add emphasis and to stop down. One thing you want to make sure you do a lot is not just keep everything like, just blaring the whole time, music, talking, everything. Just stop it down to make a point, stop it down to add emphasis, stop the music, stop the sound effects, everything. Go to complete silence sometimes to get people's attention. So they're like, well, what's happening next? Why did it stop? It's a really pro and impactful thing to add to your edits. And now we want to make sure that the voiceover is timed correctly. So let's see if it's good where it is. Trevor's Place. That's good. It gives you a little bit of a pause and then it starts. And then right after I say Trevor's Place, we want the music to start. And I found a track that'll work with us. So I'm just going to jump up into here into audio, click on music, and type in inspiring cinematic. Here it is. And we're just going to drag it down here. And we want it to start right after I speak. So right about there. Let's see if the music starts in the right place. Trevor's Place. Yeah, that's great. So it's right there and right where the music starts, and you can see because the waveforms start. I want this next shot to start, and I want this one to go all the way to it. Bam, and we have snapping on, so things are lining up nicely. And I'm just going to drag this guy back so I can put all these guys on the same track. Just click, drag, bam. You can see it'll fit. I can just go straight down, and it stays in place. Now we've got all of the video and graphics in place, so let's go ahead and modify the video and graphics and add more sound design to make this look closer to what Vox did. And each one of these steps is going to to help you with your videos as well. So we can see for this guy, I'm just going to solo all these first so you don't hear the audio. And the way you do that easily is you just highlight all of them like I just did and type the letter V, and all of them will go off or on, just hitting V again. Or you can turn off the audio one track at a time like this, but it's much easier to highlight everything and just type the letter V like that. Let's see how we like this as it is. There's two things I noticed that I don't like. It's totally static in the beginning, number one. And number two, we can see Google Earth and this text down here, which I don't want to see. It looks janky. So I'm just going to just scale it up like that. Position my playhead at the beginning so it starts moving from the very first frame, and then it stops moving at the very last frame here. And I'm just going to hit the arrow key to go back one frame so I can be positioned on it. I'm just going to scale it up ever so slightly like that. So now it's going to look like this. We'll go ahead and turn the sound on. And that's really cool because I started moving it and then it gently started moving itself because of what I did in Google Earth. You may have noticed in Vox's video that we start with the Earth, which is round, and then we keep the same size shape when we zoom way into Madagascar, that island, but it's dark around here and light in here. How do we do that? Well, you can see that they have a still image from Google Earth and they just outline this part here. To do that, we first want to just duplicate this layer. I'm going to zoom in a little bit by holding my Command key on my Mac, Control key on the PC, and hitting my scroll wheel. And I'm going to hold down the Option key on my Mac, the Alt key on a PC, click and drag this up to duplicate it. And now all I'm going to do is add a mask in the middle here that's the same size as the Earth here. So it looks really, so it flows nicely. So I'm just going to position this over this Earth so I can get the sizing right. Put my playhead here so I can see what's going on. Make sure this guy's highlighted. Click on Video Mask and click on Circle. And look at that. It put a circle there. And because everything's centered, all I have to do is drag this guy, make it a little bit bigger. And bam, we have the circle the same size as this guy. Circle, circle, almost the same size. Maybe a little bit smaller. Let's see. Yeah, right about there. Now it's almost exact. So I'm going to position this guy back here. And it's like, oh, I can't tell that thing's got a mask on it. Once I click off it, what do? I just want to take this bottom guy and click on Basic and drag opacity down so it gets much darker, just like that. Hey, look at that. See, we have a circle and land, and it looks just like the circle and land on Vox's. And notice something else. Vox's is moving. How can I make both of these guys move together? Well, I'm just going to zoom in and I'm going to highlight both of them, right click and choose create compound clip. Now, whatever I do to this, it'll do to both of those clips. Remember, that's two clips. Got the background dark, the foreground light with a mask on it. To move it all, I'm just going to position my plate at the beginning, and you guys know what I'm going to do, right? I'm just going to set keyframes for the scale. So I'm just going to click here on that first frame, and then I'm going to go to the end for this last frame, go back. So I'm actually on that frame, highlight it, and just scale up just a little bit, just so it starts to move. So there's some more motion. So it'll go from this wide shot of the Earth and outer space, and then bam, that guy's going to keep moving. So we have the motion continuing, which is another really important thing to make your cuts flow. You want to have continuous motion. Not to show the whole thing, but just this little part here. It keeps going, and all that emphasis from stopping down with that riser right there. So next we want to get this cut moving. And right now this one's not doing much of anything at the start. We're just gonna do the same thing with this. I'm just going to click on it, position my plate at the beginning, and I want a little more motion. He had his stuff static. You don't have to do exactly what Vox did. Do what you think looks good. And it's a long cut, and I'm just gonna go back to that last frame and notice that I set a keyframe for this guy. As soon as I modify this property, the scale property, it'll automatically add a keyframe here, and you'll see it here. So we're just going to scale it up a little bit so it's moving the whole time. And in fact, I'm going back to that first keyframe because I did not like seeing this at the bottom of the screen, that Google Earth. So I'm just going to scale that up a little bit so we can hide the Google Earth icon there. And now it looks like this. And so that's moving. That's my motion. And then there's the motion that Google Earth added. And that looks pretty cool. And it's still moving there at the end, even after Google Earth stopped moving because my motion was built in. So it made a really smooth, pretty animation, I think. And then we have our animals. The most diverse animals on the planet. Cats, dogs, and deer, probably the only ones left on Earth. So what do we do for this now? Well, let's go ahead and check our timing and add a little more sound effects, and we're getting really close. I'm gonna turn these guys back on. You remember how? Highlight them both, type the letter what? It's V. For these still images at the end, let's see what Vox does to sound design it so we can do something similar. Here we go. Okay, it went, let me do it one more time. We have a flutter. sound effect in there. We have some kind of chicks in there, it sounds like, going tweet, tweet. I couldn't find a good flutter sound effect in CapCut, so I gave you one here in my audio folder. It says flutter. So I'm just going to zoom in here and have the flutter start exactly when this cut starts, and I'm just going to use this part of it. You don't have to use the very beginning, just find a part that works, and then I'm going to end it here, and that would sound like this. And you can't hear it because the music's too loud. So I'm going to turn the music down here for a second. In fact, I'm just going to solo that. Remember, letter V. Yeah, that's something. You can hear it's kind of rising a little bit and it flutters. And then let's just add some chicks too. We're going to go into audio, sound effects, just so it kind of matches what they did. Chicks. And we have chicks. Just drag them down here. I don't know it works because I used it earlier when I was finding this stuff. And yeah, that's fine. And I'm going to turn it down. It's kind of loud. And just make it last exactly there because that's what works for this cut here. Turn it down a little bit. Now, the next step is, well, to hear it. Yeah, that's pretty good. And turn my voiceover back on. And you can see that I'm still talking here. So I want to be done sooner. So I'm going to just cut this a little bit here, trim this guy back a little bit, and bring this over a tiny bit and check the music here. And I think it's probably going to be a little bit too loud. I want the music to be louder here where there's this pauses and where it starts. So I'm just going to zoom in on it and I'm going to position my playhead where I want the music to get a little bit quieter again. And I'm going to jump up here to basic volume, set a keyframe here and go back a few frames. Just bump up the music quite a bit here to maybe 6 decibels so that it starts and you can actually hear it. You want the music to drive your cuts. You have to be able to hear it when there is nothing else happening. So like this, because it's starting this new cut. First place, a couple trees off the coast of Oregon. It's one of the most biologically diverse places in the world. The last thing we want to do is a final mix so that you can hear the voiceover really well and you can still hear the sound effects and music when you want to be hearing them, and you don't want anything to be over -1 dB. To see the audio meters bigger than here, like trees up, they're tiny and kind of useless here. You just click on it and bam, they show up over here on the right. Coast of Oregon. And now we just want to make sure that nothing peaks over this 0. So I kind of shoot to make the highest levels be about -1. After the final mix, the finished masterpiece will look and sound just like this. Trevor's Place. A couple trees off the coast of Oregon. It's one of the most biologically diverse places in the world. If you, you watching him talking to you, if you are serious about YouTube, I can walk you through exactly how to use CapCut start to finish, whether you're a total beginner or you're starting to wrap your head around CapCut. I'll take you by the hand and in 24 easy lessons, I'll turn you into an editor. Just click right here or hit the link in the description to check out my course, Master CapCut, which also happens to be the only place you get direct access to me if that's something you want, where you can ask me any questions about editing in CapCut and I will personally answer all of them. And in the process, I'll make all of your editing pain simply melt away.